Going into the final season of the show, the image that everyone has in their mind is that it's just going to be answers and answers and answers and no new mysteries at all, which was a completely unreasonable expectation. It's a mystery box show. And the way in which the big reveal is pulled off at the end of Season 5 and at the beginning of Season 6 is pretty on the nose about this aspect. The way that the audience and the characters find out the shenanigans the monster has been up to is because Ilana dumps Locke's body out of a big box. The way a mystery box works is that the audience projects their imagination into the box, but the imagination is heavily influenced by the subconscious and by past experiences. But the drawback of this trick is that once you open the box, you have to stick with whatever's in it. The mystery can't change behind the scenes anymore. Once people are aware of what the monster is doing, it moves from the collective subconscious to the collective conscious. This is why the monster can't change, and why Ilana refers to Locke's corpse as a weapon. Once the mystery box is open, the answer can't change anymore. This is why the monster killed Echo, because he started to catch on, but also because his response to being asked to confess made it clear that he wouldn't have accepted Jacob's offer in the first place, and so is a safe bet that he can be killed. The second-person narrator is a big part of Lost, this idea that you can have an unreliable narrator and you can have information that isn't complete from people in the show. So Dogen says that the monster will come to Saeed as someone who has died, and then the monster tells Jack that before he could look like Locke, Locke had to be dead. So people have gone to the conclusion that the monster can only become dead people, but then in 2020 you have Damon Lindelof saying that when Shannon was seeing Walt, that was also the monster.
So Jack saw his dad, and Echo saw Yemi, and so on. Shannon saw Walt, who is not a. So Shannon saw Walt, who is not a. So the fact that Ben Linus could control the monster, and that the monster was in some way responsible for the whispers as well.
And then he almost goes into it, and then drops it, and then finishes what he was talking about. So the question is, well, how do you reconcile these two things? And it has to do with the unconscious, the subconscious, and this idea in psychology of repression. Your brain is at all times pushing down uncomfortable and difficult thoughts and feelings, and this is just how the mind works. For a majority of characters in the show, what the monster turns into are dead loved ones from their flashbacks. In Season 3, it's Yemi, it's the spiders. Well, it's Walt one more time at the end of Season 3. Then in Season 4, it's Christian. Harper was the monster too. And in a dream, Horace. And then in Season 5, it's Christian and Locke. And then in Season 6, it's the Man in Black and Locke. So why confuse the audience by specifying what it is when you can just go with he's the dead? So the idea is Jacob's the protector, his subconscious is shaping and informing the island and what the island does, and the repressed thing, feeling, impulse, thought, idea in his subconscious is that he wants his brother back, but also there's this guilt. He feels that he deserves to be punished, which is why the Man in Black, as it's manifested by the monster, is out to kill Jacob. So you could look at it as an elaborate suicide, and that interpretation also lines up with Mother and how she met her demise. So the monster can appear as any animal, technically, and that includes people, that looms large in the subconscious mind of someone currently stranded on the island. But if it wants to physically manifest a body, it needs a corpse present on the island to duplicate. So when were individual flashbacks grabbed? Kate and Hurley got snatched at the end of Season 1. So it clearly did that with Locke and with Echo, probably with Charlie, maybe with Jack in the very first hour of the show. So the idea is that Jack, Kate, and Charlie went out to the cockpit to find the transceiver. They encounter the monster. We don't know. It didn't kill Jack, but it didn't follow Kate or Charlie. And then a few episodes later, Jack starts seeing his dad. So is that when it allowed Jack's subconscious to imprint onto it? We never see the monster interact with physical objects definitively until we see Yemi with the necklace. There was the stuff in Dave with Hurley and the slipper, but Libby doesn't remember whether or not there was a slipper. There's a chilling progression as far as the monster intruding on the realm of reality. We have these individual hallucinations in the first season, and then at the beginning of season 2, there's the turning point where both Saeed and Shannon can see Walt. Then we have in season 3, the monster breaking character with Echo, and then in season 4, when Claire wakes up and Christian is cradling Aaron. Again, interacting with a physical object because Christian's body is present on the island to duplicate. So it isn't just this temporary apparition in the mind of an individual. In season 4, when Christian is walking around and talking to people and interacting with objects, he's wearing different clothes. At the beginning of the show, Jack sees his dad in the suit all those times and then sees it again off island in season 4. All of these are apparitions and hallucinations, and I would categorize them alongside the dreams in the rest of the show. One of the things that really drove me crazy was the introduction of the rituals used for the transferring of protectorship over the island. And it's like, well, how does this fit with anything they've done before? We're just doing magic and voodoo now? What is happening? But there's actually a connection and an answer for this. There's a lot of important Ben-centric stuff in the show that pays off and connects to big answers. There are a lot of Ben-related details in season 3 that are important, either scenes or episodes. The first one is the magic box scene, which was in the previous video. And then the next one is a flashback to Ben's childhood when he's in Dharma school, where there's some very conspicuous lines of dialogue and close-ups.
So, once water is added to the bicarbonate, we will get our very own volcanic reaction. Yes?
Is that what happened to the volcano on this island?
Exactly, Annie, but that was a long time ago. Okay, let's get ourselves an eruption.
Oh, cool.
Just add water and voila. Now, I know it's not lava, but
so there's this pretty direct implication in this scene that water combined with whatever's in the volcano that formed the island, and that's the origin of the monster and of the island. So one of the things that's interesting about this is that when Jack puts the cork back, the light doesn't immediately turn back on. It isn't until water begins to trickle down that it starts to crackle and turn back on, which goes back to the line, just add water, the idea that this is some kind of chemical reaction that's happening that requires water, which is a nice circular thematic thing because the first Jack-centric episode is about Jack going out to find water for everyone to survive. What I think the implication is about how the island works is that it's similar to a nuclear reactor found in Western Africa that's naturally occurring in geology.
Geologically unique.
And pretty much what was happening with that was there was porous stone underground that had uranium deposits in it, and then there was an underground river that was continuously running through this area, which allowed for a sustained fission reaction that lasted for millions of years. The idea is that's what's happening with the island, that there's a deposit of negatively charged exotic matter, and the water is running down through this and cooling it and keeping it from overheating and, according to the show, annihilating all life on the planet. So with that being said, the idea is that that's how the rituals work, because the common thread between them is some water. You drink some water, just add water, remember, you need water for the reaction, and then the protector puts their hand on the person and says, now you're like me, and the energy and the water is now present in that person's body at the same time. So now a little mini reaction like the one at the heart of the island is now being carried around inside this person. And there's precedent for the idea of someone transferring energy to someone else. That's set up in season 2 when Rose goes to see the faith healer in Australia. He explains it. And that it's the same principle for how Jacob transfers either some of or all of his power over to others. One of the little things that is introduced about this is the use of the phrase unlimited energy by Pierre Chang in the opener to season 5, and that scene where that guy's like, time travel, get out of here. So unlimited energy, the use of that phrase points towards the, sci-fi stuff about the mass energy principle, where the thought is, okay, well, if gravity is just distortion of space and time caused by sufficient mass, and Einstein says that mass and energy are the same thing on the two sides of the speed of light. Is there also a limit of energy where it starts to generate gravity? And if you could generate gravity, could you make enough to form a wormhole through which there could be passage through higher dimensional space, which is pretty much just time travel, get out of here. And so that ends up creating a circulatory system for the island where water is fed into this and it reacts, and then because it's causing enough energy to create little wormholes, it's teleporting this water upstream or somewhere else in time or both. And so it allows this reaction to keep chugging along eternally. But it happens to have this vulnerable spot where if you pop out this stone with Sumerian cuneiform written on it, it drains out of this spot, and now it's not wherever the origin point is where it's being teleported back so it can keep recycling through. This is what shuts that down, and it all starts to overheat. So in that way, Jack wins in the end by conducting an emergency surgery on the island.
I wanted there to be no red, so that the plane never had any red on the logo. No one wore any red clothes. I wanted it to be shocking when you saw blood.
Because from the linear perspective all the way through, it just looks like one of those deals where if you were to inject water in deep enough in a volcano, you could trigger an eruption, or, and then water plus fire equals smoke. Like, oh, okay, cool. So this is where the smoke monster came from. And by draining out that water, now they triggered the self-destruct mechanism for the island. And it seems like just a one-way kill switch that can't be reversed up until the point the water starts to trickle in, it crackles, it turns back on, and all is well. And so the saving grace becomes that everything is interconnected, which is another theme that comes through in the final episode, because you have the deal where Jack gets stabbed by the monster and he doesn't immediately bleed to death because he had his appendix removed, because the island that usually heals people just happened to give him appendicitis. And then riffing further with Jack and the theme of interconnectedness and water, Jack was the one who was led by the monster, the physical manifestation of the island, back to water at the beginning of the show. And that water is spreading both the healing and what's referred to by the superstitious as the infection. So you have this first Kate episode right after the two-part pilot where the marshal is dying of infection. And this is the beginning of a network TV show. They're writing it, and so there probably was a conversation of, well, going forward, we've now set the precedent that people realistically, their wounds get infected in this show. But then in the next episode, they introduced the idea that, well, John Locke was in a wheelchair and now he's not, and it's because of this island. And then in the next episode, they run out of the bottled water they've been using from the plane and they have to find fresh water. And after that, there's no more concerns about infections. In fact, they start to notice that you don't stay sick or hurt long on this island, you heal. So why didn't this work for the marshal? Because they were still drinking bottled water from the plane. So it's the idea that this first sort of short arc of episodes at the beginning of the show is about the creation and founding of this community where these people become part of the complex system of this island. It's healing them, but now they're exposed to their mind being entered by these nightmares and visions, which is characterized as an infection. And that also becomes the overarching narrative going forward. And this is the beginning of that. The episode ends in the live together, die alone speech.
Now I found water. Fresh water up in the valley.
One is light.
But if we can't live together,
One is dark.
we're gonna die alone.
This scene basically is sort of as far as we ever go in really articulating this theme of where we stand in the battle between, free will and destiny.
So going back to the idea of the struggle between free will and destiny, Locke first introduces this at the end of season 1, or at least explicitly at the end of season 1, and he talks about destiny as the island. It's like destiny and the island are synonymous. Then there's also Eloise Hawking's perspective, and she talks about the universe is what is. Universe, or fate, is what is correcting for changes in time travel, which just implies that there's no free will, because if past and present and future are all relative, and you can't change the past, well, that meant you couldn't either way. But that also goes back to the way Eloise Hawking thinks and the choices that she made in her life, particularly for her son. But what I'm saying is that the time travel corrective is the island. And it's something that's actually explained perfectly by Daniel Faraday. He talks about they can throw small stones to make these small changes, but they can't completely change the direction of the river. So like these small stone throws would be like Faraday talking to Desmond for like 5 seconds before the time shift happens, or, maybe Saeed doesn't always shoot Ben in the 70s, but the outcome is the same. Maybe Jen doesn't always have a brush up against Rousseau, but the final result is the same. And it's just the island working with what it has to survive. So the rules of time travel are also how Jacob's rules work as well, where because of his past experiences, his subconscious, and what is a no-no in his mind, that's what's not allowed on the island. So before he took over the role, Mother tells him you don't have a choice, and then he gives others a choice always, for better or for worse, which is why candidates have the capability to kill each other or cause each other's death. But the monster, which is an extension of the island, can't interfere, because that would be taking their choice away. So technically the rules can be broken, but it's not easy. We've seen it. Michael tried to shoot himself, and the gun jammed, and Jack was going to jump off the bridge, but a car crash stopped him, and then Richard was going to blow himself up, but the wind blew the dynamite out. So it's the same thing with the monster. He could try harder to get off the island, but is it worth it? Isn't he just better off trying to go around the rules and kill all the people who are sustaining the reaction that was in Jacob in their bodies, have them dead, turn it off now. The island's not resonating with anything, and so he's not bound to the island anymore. But if he kills all those people, does that destroy the island? Was he always doomed to fail? I'm inclined to say yes, but the show actually kind of stays away from definitively answering that one, which I'm fine with.